Hello, this video is the start of Sun conjunction. So, as you know, Sun is like our soul, our personality, our vitality, ego, confidence, rules. Well, it's the significator for father in our chart, and our leaders, our bosses, politicians, government, royalty. Sun rules Leo, and it's the natural fifth house of the zodiac. So it's a very creative planet too. So we create children, we create art, we create like nice environments to live. So all of those things are to do with the sun. Sun, obviously, the fifth house of the natural zodiac. Sun also, because of Leo, rules the heart chakra. Heart chakra, the physical heart. I always think that Cancer is the emotional heart, and Leo is the physical. So it's about romance, love, and through which we actually create children. It's also entertainment. All those wonderful things are to do with Leo. Well, fifth house naturally as well. So and wherever sun sits in your chart is where you get the respect and you shine in your life. So if it's in your 11th house, you shine amongst your networks. If it's your say for example, fourth house, your mother shines. She's a formidable force. So that's how you see things. Sun is most uncomfortable in the 12th house because this 12th house is a natural house of moksha, and it's also a very, very secretive house. It's all about things that are really hidden. So that's probably where I'll see Sun the weakest, even though it's debilitated in the 7th house of natural zodiac, which is Libra. So in the 7th house, whether it's Libra or not, it's kind of like feels a little bit out of control because feels weak actually. So it's probably got less ego attached to it actually. That's how I would say. It's because the king, sun is the king, the leader, the boss. So therefore, like Libra, which is the 7th house of the natural zodiac, is how we interact with others. We just self-sacrifice in order to get on with other people, be harmonious. Whereas the sun, you know, the royalty, the king, the prime minister, the president, they don't want to be getting, you know, they don't necessarily care about getting on with other people. They just want to do the job, if you like. So therefore, it's most uncomfortable there. But to me, a 12th house sun, it has got quite a lot of things attached to it. That's how I've been taught, you know. So, and it gets directional strength, which means that he's got the most amount of focus in the 10th house of natural zodiac, which will be Capricorn. Now, because obviously it's the boss. Once, you know, a Capricorn is like institutions, it's the government, all that kind of stuff. So it naturally wants to shine. Now, this also, you will find people who have got sun in Capricorn, even if it's not the 10th house, they naturally want to shine. They're naturally bossy. They can't help it. That's just the way it is. So if amongst your friends you have got somebody who has that, even if it's in the 4th house, the 3rd house, the 1st house, whatever it is, it naturally is a little bit like they're bossy, you know, that's just the way it is. So now, obviously, Sun is friendly with the Moon, Mars, Jupiter, and Mercury, and very, very big enemies of Venus and Saturn. So those of you who have seen the videos of those conjunctions, you know, they're quite difficult. You probably experienced that in your life. And obviously the nodes don't like the sun and moon. So that's another thing. And that's when the eclipses occur, the lunar or solar eclipses, when they are with either Ketu or Rahu, north or south node of the moon. Now, there are other things that I wanted to tell you about, like obviously sun is exalted in Aries, which is the sign of me, myself, and I. That's it. King and I. And so it's exalted at 10 degrees there in Aries, debilitated at 10 degrees in Libra. I would probably say Sun does worse in Venus's signs. They're so difficult, and also Sun is difficult in Saturn signs too. If you have them, you realize that it's the nature of Sun is fiery. So therefore, whatever planet it's sitting with is going to be eclipse, is going to be agitated, because you know fully well that if you're in the heat of the day when the sun is out, or if you're trying to park your car when it's really sunny, it's very, very frustrating, very, very difficult. So that's how it feels, you know. So when you see in people's charts sun and moon situations, excuse me, well, sun with any planet, it's agitating that planet, even if they're not combust. And I would leave below all the kind of combustion degrees, etc., for you. But I mean, obviously, it is difficult being with them. Mercury is a planet that Mercury and Venus are fast moving planets, so they do move with the sun, and so often you see them in the chart quite close to the sun, whether it's in the same sign or a sign behind, sign in front, or sometimes even two signs. And so, but generally speaking, you know, sun agitates, so when it comes to the sun and the other planets, you want to see the degrees really, and the slower moving the planet is, the wider the sort of distance needs to be for it not to be combust. And obviously, if planets are retrograde in towards the sun, it's even more combustion going on there. So combustion is very difficult because what it does, it kind of burns away and purifies some of the indications of that planet. Excuse me, while a car's alarm has gone off. And the other things, so sun obviously gets directional strength in the 10th house. That's where it works quite well. And probably the most, I think sun is better actually because it's ego attached as well. Sun is sometimes better when it's in the chart is not overly. Well, you will know people who have got like exalted sun. They can be a little bit like, well, you know, you know, they kind of like, they are so self-aware, you know, so aware of their needs. They can just completely overlook other people. And it's all about their comfort. It's all about what they want. So if you're in a group of friends, you have somebody who has got an exalted sun, boy, do you know about it. You all know about it. It's just so crazy. So yeah, so sun and moon. So sun being the indicator of the father, and we're going to discuss moon today, but it's obviously, you know, you want to look at all planets and just see how it's going, but with the moon, because obviously it's the most important thing, I'm just going to do an extra video in the middle here so you know, because I want to just introduce lunar phases too to this. Anyway, let's just start. Before I go, actually, I just wanted to say something else about the sun and moon thing, because if sun and moon are together conjunct in a sign, in the D9, not so much in the D1, D9, because that kind of confirms everything and is a sign of like how we are with other people in relationships. If you got sun and moon conjunction in your D9, you're very new to relationships. So really just be aware that you're learning about relationships. And so don't get yourself, you know, like, don't be hard on yourself. This is what I'm trying to say, you know, and it's possible that you are going to go through some challenges in relationships because you really need to know your mind in order to be in a relationship in a positive way. And that comes with time, because none of us come out with an instruction book knowing what to do with it. So don't be hard on yourself. Okay, on to next video. Ascendants for Sun Mercury conjunction. So let's have a look at let's look at the chart actually for them. Okay, so obviously this happens quite frequently in the skies, and if they're both good planets for you, as long as they don't fall into the 6th house, they do create really good yogas. And remember that luminaries like to be with other planets. they get a lot of energy from the other planets, but that could also disturb the other planets. You know, being close to the sun can combust or put an eclipse on the other planets, and being near the moon as well, it can make the functions of that planet, you know, obviously it depends on what, you know, what houses they rule for you, each ascendant, but generally speaking, the luminaries get quite a lot from being with other planets. Obviously, you know, some of them are quite malefic, like Saturn will not be good for Sun, or Sun for Saturn, and same as Moon and Saturn, because Saturn is just such a heavy planet. But nonetheless, though, it's good to just bear that in mind, because Moon can take a lot of energy away from Venus, and Mercury also can. Moon can be quite difficult too. Anyway, let's start with the Sun Mercury conjunctions. So for Aries ascendant, as you can see, so Sun rules 5th house, Leo, for them. Really good trinal house. It's a very important planet for Aries. Mercury, on the other hand, rules 3rd and 6th house. So it's the lord of 2 Upachaya houses. And this is the reason why we say Mercury gets better with time, because it's the prince and it's young. So it takes a while until it learns about the how the world works, if you like. And then it becomes very good in terms of like helping us manage our life, really. So for these people, for this will create issues in terms of investments will not be good for Aries ascendants. They could have problems in relationships, in terms of like how they form relationships. It will be a little bit difficult to begin with. They can have issues with friends, issues with debt, because they could be a little bit too romantic about everything, and so there will be some issues to begin with, and then as time goes by, and also obviously it could be that they have issues with their dad as well, because Sun obviously indicator of the father. So as anytime you say this, so wherever the house is, obviously it will give you more flavor for it, but generally speaking, this is not going to be that good for you know, the Aries ascendant. However, if it falls into the 10th house, then Sun will have directional strength. Mercury is in a friendly sign. Sun does, and at work they could be very like in terms of work, being in like anything to do with law, politics, government, even medical things as well. That could be they could do really well. That's definitely going to help. If it's in the 11th house as well, because then Sun will be protecting the 5th house, that will be good too. And again, Mercury, it's not comfortable for the Sun being in Saturn signs. However, it will protect from Aquarius, will be aspecting its own sign, Leo, protecting the 5th house. So having children, romance, and things like that will be a little bit easier for them. Obviously, if it goes into the 12th house, Mercury will be, I will probably say this wouldn't be very good, because in the 12th house, Mercury will be debilitated, and Sun is not comfortable in the 12th house. So there will be some things to do with the father that's like they don't know. There could be that they grew up without their dad. Dad could have been poorly, or it could just be that they've had some real issues with some friends who are like secret enemies, and just addiction issues with friends or self or dad, things like that. Or it could just be that the person works abroad, really. So all of those depends very much where they fall within the house, the nakshatra, the pada of that nakshatra, and how it forms that issue in the D9. So you can see at those degrees, this Mercury is actually debilitated in the D9. So all of that makes a big difference. But generally speaking, this is not going to create a good yoga for success, and that Buddha Aditya yoga will be spoiled. But this person could be really good, very like creative writer, could be very good at making like websites, graphic design. You know, their detail will be very good on those terms, will be very good, but they could also be hard on themselves too. So yeah, And I probably this degree, if Mercury was direct, I wouldn't say that Mercury was debilitated, but at this point, because it's retrograding towards the sun, yeah, that will be a combust Mercury. Anyway, yeah, so that's Aries. For Taurus ascendant, obviously Mercury is a really good planet, rules second and fifth house. So it creates money for them. It rules a trine, second house is money, and then fourth house. So this obviously creates lovely Raja Yoga. If it occurs in the first house, Mercury will have directional strength. It's in a friendly sign. If it happens in the second house, it creates Dana Yoga, and Raja Yoga together, and again, it'd be a good sign for both Sun and Mercury, because it's friendly sign to both of them. And if it happens in Leo, is good. It happens in Mercury sign Virgo, that will be good too. And the other houses, that will be good too. If it's in the 10th house, then Sun has got directional strength, that will be good too. So those will be the houses that I would say they're the top ones for them to do well. Now, obviously, if it happens in Cancer, it will be good to some degree, but it will be like it could make the person think too much, because Mercury is overthinking things, particularly when it comes to romance. So if they go on a date, they like, and if they text the person, if they don't hear from them, they could be like overthinking and over imagining things, so that will be a bit difficult, because Mercury doesn't do well in with moon or moon signs, and vice versa. If it happens in Libra, Sun will be debilitated. If it happens in Scorpio, then Mercury finds it difficult there. And but however, both of them they actually will create nice yogas as well, because they also, not only are they in an angular house, but they're also aspecting the first house too. But Sun will feel debilitated because of the 7th house issue. But yeah, it's not too bad, but Mercury is uncomfortable there. Sagittarius is the 8th house. So I would say Mercury will do well there, because it's the 8th house, but it's an enemy sign. And Sun in the 8th house, so there could be issues, chopping and changing homes and things like that, because Sun rules the 8th house. And so also will create money issues as well, the 2nd house. But from there, Mercury will aspect the 2nd house, so eventually things will settle, but there will be this suddenness about life and finances. And in the 9th house, obviously, what happens there, Sun and Mercury, Sun doesn't like being in Saturn signs, and Mercury will be in friendly sign. But in the 10th house, Sun will have directional strength. That will really help the Sun, and it protects the 4th house too. In the 11th house, Mercury will be debilitated. And in the 12th house, Sun will be exalted. But it's a funny one, isn't it? Because it's the 12th house. So Mercury will feel debilitated, this enemy sign to Mercury as well. And Sun will also be exalted, but exalted in the 12th house, which can be a little bit difficult. But it could just be that these people actually go abroad and live abroad eventually, or have a house abroad, that kind of thing. Okay, so Gemini ascendant. For Gemini ascendant, this is 1st and 4th house Lord, and also the 3rd house. So these people are constantly moving, 3rd house and 4th house together. So 3rd house is 12th houses from the 4th house. So constantly moving in their life, or their family always moving, or they're always or they're happy at home, happy communicating with siblings, friends, happy they just love being at home, and they do put a lot of effort into self-development too. And it would be great in the 1st house, because Mercury will have directional strength. Sun is strong in Mercury signs, and the 4th house will be good too. And obviously the other houses that will be good for them too will be like the 10th house. For the Sun will really help Mercury. Mercury will be debilitated there, but Sun will have directional strength, and it's in friendly sign. And in the 11th house, Sun will be exalted, so it will help. It will help Mercury. but yeah, generally those are the theme. Those are the ones that are probably the best one. Obviously in the 5th house, Sun will be debilitated, and in the 10th house, Mercury will be debilitated, and Sun doesn't do well in the 12th house. Neither does Mercury, because it feels debilitated. So in Taurus, it will not be good. Okay, even though it's a friendly sign. Okay, so here we go. Cancer ascendants. For you guys, this is 3rd and 12th house ruler Mercury, and Sun rules your 2nd house of family. So this will be like, there's always expenditure because of the family. They save up and then they spend. That's the issue that bring 12th house and 2nd house rulers together. It could also be that they lend money to their friends, they lose their friend and the money too. So this is probably not a good idea to do that for this for Cancer ascendants. And so for you guys, it obviously will be really good if it happens for you in your 10th house, because Sun will be exalted, will have directional strength, and so this, but there will be something secret about their job, because the 12th house ruling of Mercury. Mercury doesn't add anything to any of the yogas really here. But Sun will be strong there, but it could be something secret about their job. They might work behind the scenes. They might travel with their jobs, because 3rd house is also like travel. 12th house is travel. They could work with foreign people, learn and teach things to foreign students, teachers, online, behind the scene, that kind of a job. So they're on like in the 11th house there. Mercury will be strong, but there's because of the 12th house issue, that there's always going to be some form of like, they could find that like their dad could have like some there's something about secretive about dad, or maybe dad has had some health issues, rejuvenation, or sibling has had this. Because the 12th house is addictions, so they have to really make sure they really work on finishing things, ending things, because Mercury is not going to, they could be really good at work, but they could be really bad at kind of ending all the like, for example, if they were like in they start things but they don't really tighten up all the loose ends, they don't complete things, they start another project, so they have to work at doing this. Next ascendant is Leo. For Leo ascendant, this is really good because it brings together 1st and 2nd house ruler and the 11th house ruler, Mercury. So for you guys, it creates money, loads of money, and family money as well. Friends will create money for you, your elder sibling. So this is going to be pretty good, as long as it has no connection with the 6th house, which is as long as they don't actually fall into Capricorn together, that would be absolutely fine. And because 6th house spoils all yogas, but anywhere else is pretty good. Also, obviously, you don't want it to be in the 12th house, because 12th house means no sooner you gain, you'll have expenses coming in. But 12th house doesn't spoil it. It just like means that there's the tendency to overspending and losing that money. But yeah, this will be really good. Obviously, in the 1st house, Sun is an own house. Mercury's got directional strength. It's really good in the 2nd and 11th house. It's excellent. It's really good in the 9th house, because Sun will be exalted. Mercury will be finding it difficult there, but it also will be good in the 10th house, because Sun will have directional strength. Mercury is in friendly sign, so it will tie up that money earning with their career as well. It's not that great in the 8th house, because Mercury is debilitated. However, this will be a clever Mercury, will be able to, after a while, once they work things out, they can actually do pretty well. But obviously, it has there could be a suddenness to their gains, to their family, that kind of thing. So that could make it difficult. But yeah, I mean, obviously, if it happens in the 3rd house, Sun will be debilitated, so it's not so good. We don't want it in the 4th house, because Sun has got no direction there, and also Mercury is in a difficult house, enemy sign. In the 5th house, Sun will be strong, Mercury will be weak, because it doesn't do well in Jupiter signs. So yeah, there is we all have that as ascendants. We all have issues with certain places. For Mercury, for Virgo ascendant, Mercury rules first and 10th house, so very important planet, creates Raja Yoga on its own. Sun is not so good, rules the 12th house. So this person, there's like, they'd be working really, really hard, but there's always some, like the bosses can get in their way, or there could be like something secretive about their job. Their dad could be like aloof with them, or, you know, they might have grown up without knowing their dad. And there is a tendency to start things and not finish things at work. Maybe you're working with foreign people, import, export, traveling a lot with your job, that kind of thing, something secret about your job, that kind of thing. Obviously, in the first house will be the best place, even though Sun is a 12th house ruler, but Mercury will be very strong there. In the 10th house, Sun will have directional strength, and Mercury obviously in own sign, but obviously Sun rules 12th house. So there's always going to be a little bit of difficulty until they really grasp how to use the 12th house to their own benefit. It's obviously not going to be good in the 7th house. Mercury will be debilitated there. Sun also feels debilitated in that house. Not good in the 2nd house. Sun is debilitated. And so it will be in, you know, it's not too bad if it is in the 9th house, Taurus. And I'll probably say not so good in there, although it creates lovely done yogas there, but also Mercury just doesn't work very well in moon signs. But in the 4th house, Mercury is not happy. Sun has got no direction, so it's not great there. In the 6th house, 6th house will spoil any yogas. 8th house, Sun will be exalted. So, and also Mercury is very intelligent, very intellectual, practical in the 8th house. So despite the fact that it is difficult, because it's 12th house ruler in the 8th house with the Sun, it actually creates a Viparit Raj Yoga. So actually with difficulties, after lots of ups and downs, transformations, and just hardship of life, they can be really successful there. But they could be a spy, they could be in like military, cyber things like that, you know, also something, or they could also be in the military too. Military, they could also be, particularly in Ashwini, they could be working for like fire service, medics, that kind of thing. Okay, so for Libra ascendant, obviously Sun is not a good planet for them. Sun also will be debilitated in the 1st house, and so although it creates money for them because it'd be 11th house ruler in the 1st house strange, but it'd be debilitated, so it will not be that, the gains will not be so good. But Mercury will have directional strength in the 1st house, so, and it's also 9th house ruler in the 1st house, but you know, they gain then and they will just spend it, so it will not be good in the 1st house. 10th house for them is Cancer, so Sun will do really well there. Mercury will struggle, but Sun will help it there. Sun is also exalted in the 7th house, so that will be pretty good for the Sunday in the 7th house, even though it doesn't normally like to be in the 7th house. But yeah, that could be shining on, you know, on the world, that kind of thing. But this is definitely, you know, it's a situation you don't want it to fall into the 6th house, because Mercury will be debilitated and it will break any yogas anyway. So, but you know, if this happens, like for example, if it falls into the 11th house, 9th house, I think that would be the best one, because it's the 11th house ruler in the 9th house, creates a Raja Yoga, and so that would be probably, I would say, it's the best one. And in the 8th house, Mercury is clever in the 8th house, but again, you know, it causes a lot of suddenness in their friends. They could be involved in like networks of secret societies and things that doesn't do them so well, actually. It could create some scandals for them. But yeah, so basically, if in the 5th house, Sun will be aspecting own sign, protecting it there. That could be quite good. So be the 9th house ruler in the 5th house. That could be really pretty good for status and education, things like that. So next one will be Scorpio ascendant. Scorpio ascendant Sun is the ruler of their 10th house. So if it's in the 10th house, they're both going to be really happy. Sun will be happy there, Mercury will be happy there. So that will be, again, there could be something secretive about them, secret military or something like that. And Sun is directional strength, own sign, so it will be secretive, but a really good job. They'll be very successful and they will keep that job for a long time. In the first house, Mercury will have directional strength, but it will bring, because in the first house, it bring quite a lot of ups and downs to the person's life. But then if they do sort of go with the flow, they could actually, you know, it will be successful for them. And it also creates a lovely Raja Yoga, having Sun in the first house for them. And so that could be good, because Mercury having that directional strength. So he's 10th and 11th house ruler in the first house. So he creates Raja Yoga and Dana Yoga and Aditya Yoga too, with Aditya Yoga. And so in the second house, Mercury will be, you know, doesn't like being in Sag, but it'll be aspecting own sign, 8th house. So it will mean that they can cope with 8th house stuff better. And, you know, it gives them more longevity as well, because it's protecting the 8th house. Sun is exalted in the 6th house, but if they're in the 6th house, it will break all the good yogas. But it just means that they're very successful in servicing others. So medics, nursing, that kind of thing will be very good. In the 5th house, Sun will be in friendly Sun, Mercury will be debilitated. So you can see every ascendant has got things that will be difficult for them. I'd say for these people, Scorpio, Ascendant, Sun, Mercury, probably the worst house could be 12th house, because Sun in the 12th house, I think, is difficult. Mercury feels debilitated there as well. So there could be quite a lot of issues there with dads, bosses, you know, that kind of thing. It will be also affecting their work too, those issues with addictions and things, and friends could create real problems for them, because it brings like 8th house issues, which is again secret scandals, secret enemies. 12th house is secret enemies, but Mercury will help them eventually to work their way out of those. Okay, Sagittarius, so this is like what will be 7th and 10th house ruler Mercury and the 9th house ruler. So this is very, very high quality yoga, as long as it doesn't go into Taurus, the 6th house. That would be pretty good. Obviously, you don't want them in the 12th house either, because neither of them do well in there. Mercury feels debilitated. Mercury is physically debilitated in the 4th house anyway, they're in Pisces, and Sun is debilitated in the 11th house. So I would say in the 10th house will be amazing. Mercury is in own sign. Sun has got directional strength. It'll be good in the 7th house for Mercury, although Sun will feel debilitated, but it's a friendly sign and gets a lot of help from Mercury. And in the 5th house, Mercury will be uncomfortable, but Sun will be exalted there. So that is also a very, very strong yoga there. And it will be an exalted Sun actually putting shine on the 11th house too. So they will be very... this will be good for investments, good for friends, networks. They gain so much. They could have a lot of gains at work, through father, through sort of education, travel. All of those things will be very good for them. Okay, in the 2nd house, obviously Sun doesn't like to be in Saturn signs. So 2nd and 3rd house will be difficult for the Sun, but Mercury will do well in both of those two. And also both of them are pretty good at 3rd house stuff. Mercury rules the natural 3rd house of the zodiac. Sun is a malefic, so it helps Mercury to achieve things. They will have a lovely voice too. Their work could be to do with teaching skills, being a teacher, being like maybe even a singer, particularly if it's in Dhanishta nakshatra. So next one, Capricorn ascendant. For you guys, this is Mercury rules the 6th house, so we already know that it's going to spoil some of the yogas. It gets better with time, but Mercury rules 6th and 9th house, so these people will be, you know, their luck comes through with service. And so 8th house ruler also Leo ascendant, sorry, not Leo, Sun rules Leo. So but what happens is they create together what is called Viparit Raj Yoga, 6th and 8th house rulers coming together. So, and through difficulties, things will get better for them. They probably are very dedicated and hardworking as well. So yeah, I mean, this will do quite well in the third house. Sun will be exalted there. Sorry, fourth house, Sun will be exalted there, and it will also, both of them will be aspect in their 10th house, which is lovely for their 10th house. And they could be like something to do with property that they work in, you know, property stuff. Maybe they're repairing properties, developing land, or cars, even car mechanics, stuff like that. And in the 6th house, it would be more somebody who's like a medic, working in emergency, that kind of stuff, or troubleshooters, you know, emergency workers, and that kind of thing. And their dad as well, there could be like some sort of, you know, problem, health issue with their dad, or just like they bicker with their dad earlier in life, and things, relationship becomes better with time, or education can create some form of debt for you. Obviously not good in the 10th house, even though Sun has got directional strength, will be debilitated, so there'll be some issues at work. But Mercury being there creates Raja Yoga, but obviously because of the 6th house. So the more they are of service with others, the better this will be. Not good in the 12th house, not good in the 3rd house, and obviously 10th house will be difficult. So those are the ones that are difficult. And I think in the 7th house will be difficult for Sun and Mercury. Mercury wouldn't like it there because it's enemy sign. Sun also in the 7th house feels debilitated. So yeah, and just all those, 4th house will be okay. 2nd house will be good in the sense that it will protect their 8th house. But in a sense, actually, 6th house might actually work best. Okay, so Aquarius ascendant, this is 7th house ruler and 5th and 8th house ruler together. So, you know, there's going to be problems with having children or in relationships because it brings those things together. So, you know, 7th house ruler is now with, so it could just be that at the beginning they find it really out of their depth, being like in dating and things like that, or they could have problems at the beginning, you know, having children, but once they kind of really devote themselves to that, things will be fine. Because, you know, 8th house doesn't, just gives you some issues, but, you know, the moment you start realizing the value of what you know, trying to create a family is going to be just, and invest in time and effort into them and transform yourself to be accommodating to the family environment. But yes, so it's good in the 1st house because Mercury will be in friendly sign and also directional strength, and Sun from there will be protecting the 7th house, so that will be good in the 1st house. 2nd house, Mercury will be debilitated. 3rd house will be amazing because it's a very creative person, very expressive, working maybe in environments where they are, you know, dad could be quite chatty, you know, as a family, they're very, because some will be exalted there and will be helping Mercury there. And yeah, so they'll be multi-talented, quite romantic people, you know, lots of hobbies, friends, like, you know, being in touch with their like siblings, doing things with children, you know, taking their children out, and just generally having fun is very important to these people, with their family, with their kids, their friends, siblings, etc. 4th house, well, obviously Sun doesn't like to be in the 4th house. It's got no direction, but Mercury is in a friendly sign and it creates a Raja Yoga there for 5th house ruler in the 4th house, so that's lovely. And it helps the Sun. Sun then also will be aspect in the 10th house, which is a really nice aspect. So yeah, that in that sense, also 5th house ruler aspect in the 10th house will be a nice Raja Yoga there, so that will be good. In the 5th house would be amazing. Has, you know, house of intelligence and romance and creativity, wonderful. In the 7th house, Sun will be sort of feeling debilitated because it's the 7th house, but its own sign. And Mercury likes being in Leo, so that's good there. It's good in the 8th house, even though I know it's 8th house, but Mercury is good in the 8th house, so it's going to help the Sun. So although they might go through a divorce, issues in relationships, they can work through those things. I wouldn't want the Sun to be debilitated, but if it is debilitated, their Mercury will help it. And it's the 9th house, 7th house ruler in the 9th house. So it could be that, you know, like they will go against family belief system at some point. But it does also create a Raja Yoga too. So, and then in the 10th house, some will have directional strength. 7th house rule in the 10th house with the 5th house ruler, so it will create lovely yogas there. In the 11th house, Mercury is not happy there. Sun is okay though, and it just means that they're quite respected within their friends, and Mercury will be aspecting the 5th house, you know, protecting the 5th house, so they have no issues having problems having children. Their education will be good, stuff like that. In the 12th house, Sun doesn't do well in Capricorn, being Saturn sign, and also it's a 12th house, so Mercury is going to feel debilitated. Now let's go to Pisces. So this is like for them, excuse me. What happens is in the 1st house, Mercury's got directional strength, but it's debilitated. So give and take, that kind of thing. Sun will be, you know, 6th house ruler. So Sun is going to break any yoga there anyway. So probably, maybe even if it's better if it was in the 6th house, because then it means that there could be some issues with mum, because 4th house ruler is in the 6th house, or 7th house ruler. So it could be issues, but 6th house is not necessarily divorce. It could be like getting there, but they could work through it because it's a Pachaya house. So any issues like with bickering with spouse or partner, with mum, repairing of the cars, all those sort of things, look after your car. But they could also be very service oriented. They could work, you know, work really hard. 6th house is hard work for the society. Their spouse, that's how they could meet their spouse. In the 7th house, Mercury will be strong, own sign, and Sun feels debilitated, and, you know, there could be issues with the partner, business partners and things like that. In the 4th house, Mercury owns 4th house, so it's nice and strong there, and Sun is in a friendly sign. But again, it could be bickering in the family, bickering with mum, that kind of thing. In the 8th house, Sun is going to be debilitated, Mercury is in friendly sign. In the 9th house, Mercury is not happy. In the 10th house, Sun is happy, he's got directional strength. Mercury is also, you know, so that will be somebody who's, you know, works in education, something of that nature. In the 11th house, Mercury will be strong there, and they will have very, very important friends. 12th house is not really good for either of them, so we have to just be aware that we have to overcome the issues of 12th house, working on completing things, you know, but they could work in a hospital too. So that's the situation. Anyway, that's it from me today. I'll see you soon. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you.